welcome back to Raising Real Estate Standards. Today is the beginning. We're in the beginning of March, and I've gone to a couple of realtor events as of recent, and having just surface level conversations with some people I'm not usually talking to. But the adage that I'm getting from a lot of folks is, thank God February is over. Mm-hmm. So many people, whether they're agents, whether they're broker owners, whether they're lenders, whether they're attorneys, it is all of them, and everybody had that same sentiment. They're so glad February is over. It's just a tough time coming out of the holidays, hitting the first part of the year.
Yeah, seasonally is wintertime's just a tough time anyway in this business, but this year it just seemed extra tough. I feel like you still have inventory issues, even though they're starting to pop up. But you had the rates we've had to deal with, just so many issues in and around this winter, and we have all the indications saying that it's going to be good. And therefore, now that the sun's starting to come out, things are starting to thaw, spring's starting to get here.
Yeah, and so today's episode, we're going to really hone in on getting ready for the spring market so that you're prepared and it doesn't run you over, and you're looking at the end of the spring market going, where was I and why didn't I take advantage of this? And so, as we dive into this, there's various different parts of this. Most people know spring market is a good time to buy and sell real estate. It's when most of the real estate is sold. But we're going to kind of go into a little bit deeper on why and how it affects the different sides of a transaction, just really dive in deep there.
Yeah, and we'll also touch on how you can build up your stuff, what you need to do to get ready for the spring market.
Yeah, so let's kind of scratch the surface with why. Why is the spring the typical time where real estate sales opens up and more transactions are being done? And the first thing that comes to my mind, and you mentioned it there, is especially where we are. I mean, we typically have an early spring, mm-hmm. And winter doesn't really drag on too long. And so when we get into early March, mid-March, when you may have a couple weeks of nice, 60, 70, 80 degree weather, people they've been stuck inside and they really haven't been doing a lot. And so they're antsy to get up and start working in their yards, which gets them starting to think about those sort of long-term things.
Yeah, people have been, in their houses during the holidays. Kids are back in school. So just the timing in that. And plus, a lot of times when people are looking to buy a house, they want to do it before the kids usually get out for the summer. Summer's a good time to kind of, I've been settled, I'm good. So springtime is the time that process gets started.
Absolutely. Much rather be working in their new house throughout the late spring, early summer than, in the house that they're wanting to move from.
Yeah.
Right. There's also the adage of taxes. I mean, we're getting ready to come into tax season. Unlike a lot of people that are listening to this, I typically don't get a tax return, but the general public does. Most of the general public does get a tax return and or a refund, not a return, a refund this time of year.
Yeah, you do your return, right?
Yeah, if you do your return, and then hopefully that majority of the public gets a refund, and a lot of times that comes in this springtime. So there's an injection of cash into their world that has not been there throughout the year. That's another piece of this. But then you also have sellers. Mm-hmm. Sellers want to put their house on the market, and they typically put their house on the market in the springtime because it looks the best. Flowers are coming out. The curb appeal is just a lot better. So there's a lot of those things.
I'm going to say this, and this might piss some agents off out there, but there's nothing worse than a house being or that's listed and the picture of the house with snow on the ground.
Yeah, no doubt. Or on the roof.
Right.
Come visit my house. Make sure you have your snow boots. That's not our mark. I mean, we get so little snow in our area. How those pictures get there, and more importantly, how they stay there through the spring, is just beyond me. But and then on the buyer side of stuff, they're looking in the springtime because new properties are coming on the market. They've got that, the word that's been used a lot, FOMO. They've got the fear of missing out, that this is now when the new properties, their ability to have more selection happens in spring, and they want to get out there and start participating in it. It is a phenomenon, a psychological phenomenon that ends up to where you can kind of back into data. And data, lays it out. More homes are sold in the March to June area, that time period, than any other time period in the year. And more importantly, for the seller side, the average priced home, when you look at it in a yearly basis, the highest average price of a home sales is in that March to June area.
Right.
It dips off after that, and then then it starts to come back, and then it dips off again, and it comes back. But from March to June, sellers are going to get the highest price for their home, data wise, during that time period.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point for agents is when sellers are like, hey, should I put my house on the market today? When should I put my house on the market? This is good information to give the seller to be able to say, okay, here's that. This is probably when you're going to get the most for your house.
Absolutely. And when's the best time to sell and buy real estate? Yesterday.
Right.
I mean, that we've always said that, but if you're looking to really time the market, and take advantage of it, the springtime is when your best chances are. So for you as an agent, what does that mean for you? Well, it means for you that you need to be on point. You need to be on point with the conversations you're having with your clients, the marketing that you're doing, so that what you're putting out into the universe is being absorbed and it's timely to those that are looking at it. So, looking at your social posts, your blogs that you're doing, your websites, whatever, they need to have some sort of emphasis on that springtime market. Sprucing your home up. What are the things you do? Because then you become top of mind. You're really into their mindset, and they feel in tune with who you are, which means that they're more apt to kind of say, oh yeah, they know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and right now is a good time. We've talked a little bit about this already too, but right now is a really good time to start focusing on your database, doing some spring cleaning, let's say.
Yep.
And getting in there, maybe organize it from a standpoint of, do you still remember some of these people that you may or may not have been talking with over the last year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever? Maybe even look at it and go, who's probably gonna buy or sell in the next 90 days? You don't know exactly who is gonna be, but you may have a good indication, especially if you know more about their situation.
Absolutely, and how you get so we've always said that a database is a list of relationships, and the goal is not necessarily to sell or have someone buy from your database. It's from getting the referral. That is all true. However, your database is going to be doing some of these things throughout the year as well. So having them raise their hand. How do you get someone to raise their hand? Let's talk it on the seller side. Hey, I'm looking to sell. Well, you know what? It depends on what you're putting out in, so far as your marketing stuff is concerned. For instance, if you did a post or a direct mail out to your database, email or direct mail, whatever it is, and you said, want to know how much your house is worth? For homeowners, if they either scan a QR code, click a link, whatever, to go to a page where they're requesting what their home value is, they're basically, not all of them, but a percentage of those folks are raising their hand and saying, hey, I'm thinking about possibly selling my home. Because if they weren't, either A, they're just curious about what the value of the house is, that's going to be a big percentage of them. But some of them are like, I need to know how much my house is worth so I can look at and see how much money I'm going to have to be able to purchase in the next 120 days, 90 days, whatever it is. And they've just raised their hand. Then you're able to go dig deeper with those folks and engage with them in a little bit more intimate level, that you're now in flow with them when they need to be, when they need the assistance.
Yeah, and another good thing is, take the information we gave to you before and leverage that. The whole idea of Hey, right now is probably when you're going to get the best dollar for your house, highest dollar for the year. Essentially, I mean, it could still go up in value, but you're going to get the best chance to get the highest dollar right now. Put that out there. Let your sellers know that right now is a great time, and also put it out there to your buyers. Hey, right now is when you're probably going to have the most inventory to choose from. You've got to let them know that this is the time to get out there.
Absolutely. And, buyers have the ability to be able to see more properties. Yes, there's going to be more competition, but there's more choices. Even though there's more competition, there's more choices because sellers are bringing their homes to market in the springtime for the most part. And so that, as you said before, this is the why. I'm kind of diving in. We've said this, but this is the why. The reason sellers are able to garner more on an average for their home in this time period is because the demand is higher. There's more transactions going on, which means there's more competition, which means the price in which you're able to get versus list price is a lot higher because you're not having to take as many discounts along the way.
Right. And so also this is a great time to start looking at your online presence. Mark talked a little bit about it as we got started, but like right now is when you really want to focus on, maybe putting some ideas out there, like what can I do to spruce up my house? It's springtime. We talked about the snow on the house and the picture. Maybe it's time to get that stuff off of there.
Absolutely. So these are the things that you need to do to become top of mind. And we say this all of the time. Being top of mind is the most important piece of being successful in this business, is being at the right place at the right time. And that takes intentionality, it takes effort, and it takes more than just dumb luck. Mm-hmm. And dumb luck's the market's gonna pass you by. But if you're intentional about what you're doing, you're gonna be able to capitalize on the seasonality of our market. So now that you've got your marketing on point, you have been in touch with your clients, they've raised their hands, you've gotten market analysis, you've done these things to really hone in on who you need to pay attention to. Now we need to dive into operationally, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Because one of the biggest things as a managing broker that I see is agents run around with their hair on fire when they have no business because they have no business. And then they run around with their hair on fire when they're flushed with business because they don't know how to take care of being flushed with business.
Yep.
And so right now, when you're kind of in that precipice of things are getting ready to happen, it's really also time to take stock of where you are operationally. Do you have your processes in place to be able to execute on this spring market without the super high stresses that you've experienced in the past? Because if you've experienced, and I know you have, busy spring markets and you're like, the stress is through the roof, well, I'm going to be real honest and say that's on you. That's your issue. That's not the market's issue. That's your issue that you really haven't taken time to dial in your processes and have everything dialed in.
Preparation.
Yeah.
That's the key. And you've heard us talk about it 1,000 times before, but this is really when you want to focus on leverage in your business. One of the good things is like, or an example is, you want to keep staying in touch with people. That's usually one of the things that drive your business is how many touches you make with your client base, with your people, and continuously doing that. And what happens is when you get busy during the spring market, you tend to slow down on your touches. So you've got to automate it somehow. One good way to do it is through a CRM system that could have like some drip campaigns or some way to stay in touch with your clients.
And I'll go a step further. I mean, we've talked about AI. We've had some folks come in, and we're going to dig deeper into that as time goes on because it's just really starting to come into play. But if you're using a CRM that has artificial intelligence capabilities, you're going to find that your clients, the people that are engaging with you digitally, are going to have a much better experience. Because if your CRM knows when your folks are searching and they're searching for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in northern Forsyth County, and it sees that, and then it reaches back out to them saying, hey, I saw that you looked at this. Here are 4 other properties that might meet your needs. You're now feeding them when they need to be fed the information they are probably looking at, and then they're getting more engaged. So making sure not only that you have a CRM, you're utilizing it, but that the CRM is working in today's time and having those capabilities. It's just going to take your game to the next level.
Yeah, and another thing is like response time too. As things come in, as leads come in, this is really the time that you got to be on point with your response time. You can't get somebody saying, hey, I may want to go look at this property, and then you don't get back to them for like a day and a half because they've already found 4 other agents in that time.
A day and a half?
Yeah.
30 minutes and a half.
Right.
If you've gone 30 minutes and someone that you don't know has come across your path, you've lost them.
Yep.
They're done.
Yep.
Your chances of success are non-existent.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to, again, having your systems in place so that these things, when you're out with clients, you are at closings, you are working inspections, you're doing the things that have to be done. You still need to prospect, you still need to be lead generating, and you need to be able to nurture those leads, and you need to have those systems in place. So making sure all that stuff, and then let's get into the actual operations of transactions, and that's what you kind of hit on just a minute ago. Having leverage in your business. What is leverage? Leverage is, in my mind, the ability to lean on someone else or a system that doesn't require your physical or mental input to move something else along.
Yep.
I.e., having assistance, having some sort of service that can help you out. I know for us and our brokerage, that's one of the main reasons we developed our agent services concierge program, is so that our agents can come in and lean into some leverage when they need it. It's already trained professionally there. Transaction coordination, things of that nature. Those are things that you need to be able to lean into so that when you are running 5, 10, 15 deals in a month, that you're able to get the other things done. Because if you're just operating, you're not building that pipeline for the back part of this and being able to have a successful full year. You had maybe a successful 2 months, and that's not indicative of a true successful business.
Yeah, and then on the listing side with your sellers, we've really got to hone in on our pricing. I mean, we've needed to do that for a while. I feel like that's a skill that's kind of been somewhat lost over the last 5 years. But really, we got to hone in on that pricing because we want to take advantage of the fact there is so many buyers out there. You want to price your properties, and your seller should want you to price the properties to garner multiple offers. That's the way you're going to get the top dollar for the listing.
Not only you get top dollar, you're going to minimize the stress during the transaction, because if a buyer comes in and makes an offer on your house where there were 2 other offers on it, their perception on getting through the transaction is completely different than the buyer that came in and was the only offer, already negotiated your price down, already was trying to get more off of it. So when you get to inspections and you get to repairs, the chances of them nickeling and diming you and throwing a bunch of stuff at you is much higher. Mm-hmm. So if you price your property right, you get competition in the spring market. Your sellers, the stress level during that process is going to be far reduced the more competitive you are.
Yep. So these are some of the things you can do to be ready for this spring market, and the things you can do once the wave of business comes towards you. But who are some of the people that can help us scale from that standpoint? You need to build a good team. If you don't already have one, find one. You got to have good lenders. You got to have good attorneys. You need good stagers. You need these people, and you need people who aren't already overwhelmed themselves.
100%. For those of you that may be in larger offices, I know you guys know there's probably a couple of contractors, a couple of lenders, that are doing a lion's share of the referrals and stuff like that, and they're slammed. And you're like, oh my gosh. Well, guess what? There's probably 75 other people that are just as good that aren't sitting there with such capacity issues. So make sure your people are your people, and you're not just leaning into to what everybody else is doing just for the sake of following the masses.
Yeah, and something you can do during this time too is when you have some time with some of your team, do some cross pollinizing with your vendors that you have. I mean, this is a great time to do like classes, like first-time home buyer classes with maybe a lender, or talk about some of the new changes that are going on in your area. Bring in an attorney to talk about some things from that standpoint. And it's a way to get out in front of people. And it's not just your people you're getting out in front of. You then tend to get out in front of some of their people as well.
100%. So as we kind of pull back and kind of looking at the spring market, what are you doing? The most important thing is that you're consistently doing something. So each week, you need to be looking at your business saying, what did I add? What did I implement into my business this week that's going to help me move this further, get closer to that successful spring market? Implement something, whatever it is. If it's a marketing channel of getting people to raise their hand, utilizing landing pages and squeeze pages and property valuations, do it. Mm-hmm. If it is leaning into your operations, finding and leaning in who am I going to be using when things pick up, meeting a new lender, meeting a new contractor, do it. But sitting back and waiting for the need to happen and trying to do it in the middle of the fray. If you do it now, life's going to be a lot easier, and you're going to have a much better result, and your clients are going to have a much better experience.
Yeah, if you want to take advantage of this spring, you've got to take action now. You can't question yourself later on, or I guess you can question yourself later on because you didn't take that action, because once summer gets here, you've missed it.
No doubt. Time for planning is done.
Yes.
We're out of the planning season. Planning season was end of the year, first of the quarter. We're now in taking action, and taking not just a little bit of action, but taking massive action, because massive action begets massive results. And if you don't, you only have one person to look to those excuses, and that's the person you stare at in the mirror every morning.
Yep.
So, guys, take advantage of this time. Don't let the spring market pass you by. And best of luck. Take care.